I'm going to share an occurrence which I was involved in, which precipitated one of the greatest revelations I've ever received. And I'm going to pass it on to you, and if the Holy Spirit confirms it to you, then do something with it. But don't take anything I say unless you get your own answer. Fair enough? The story goes back to having been involved in an automobile accident. My own insurance company sent me to a doctor for an IME. And I said to the agent, I said, well, what's an IME? And they said, well, it's like a second opinion. It's called an independent medical evaluation, where they send you to one of their doctors, and they pay these doctors to give whatever prognosis would benefit the insurance company. They're frauds. It's used across the board by the insurance companies. So anyway, in good faith, I thought, okay, I'll go along with these guys. I'd been hit behind an automobile accident, was having problems with my back, was unable to work, and would like to have gotten fixed. And one of the things about medicine, doctors are just given their opinions. They don't have all the answers. And the insurance company's agent said, well, sometimes doctors miss something, and maybe yours is missing something. We'd like to help get you fixed. So I went. When I got to the doctor's office, I had been required to drive in an ice storm to get to the doctor's office over an hour drive away. There were numerous car accidents all along the way in. When I got to the doctor's office, I was in so much pain from the tension of the drive, I could hardly even move from side to side. So I said to the doctor, I said, this may not be a valid evaluation. I'm in worse shape after driving than I normally am. He said, oh, we'll take all that in consideration. You just stand up against the wall and take off all your clothes. It was all I could do to lift my leg up using my pants to be able to get my shoes off. I had to sit on the floor to get them back on. I was excruciating pain the whole time. 2 weeks later, it was about a 15-minute evaluation. The doctor looking at me, telling me, try to do this, etc. 2 weeks later, I get a notice from the insurance company saying, we're going to be paying no more of your medical evaluations, any more of your medical claims, because the doctor's evaluation was self-explanatory. The doctor's evaluation said, well, I happen to notice while Mr. Bruno bent over, flexed at the hips with his legs perfectly locked, while he undressed and unlaced his sneakers without a bit of problem. I thought to myself, that is one lion SOB. So what we did, we filed suit against the insurance company for fraud. You got a doctor who's going to perjure himself, and you're paying him to perjure himself. The insurance company is committing a crime. So I utilized the principle, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. David stole Uriah's wife, which was his entire harem. God took David's entire harem and gave it to a neighbor to pay the price for what David had done to this little guy, Uriah. If you got a big eye and you put the eye out of a little guy, you lose your big eye. It's a percentage principle. So we filed suit against them for the percentage of my net worth of the amount of value of the bills versus that same percentage of the entire insurance company. Thought, okay, well, at least what we can do is we can get a few people to figure out, hey, how fraudulent this whole thing is. Well, we get to court, and before the court begins, we're choosing a jury. And one person stands up and says, I'm a claims adjuster, and I know insurance companies don't pay their bills. Another fellow said, I'd been in a car accident 5 years ago, but it was a self-insured by the city of New Orleans, and I haven't received one penny, but I think I can be objective. I leaned over to my attorney and said, can we call these two people for witnesses? He says, no, they had to have already been selected before we got in here. So the judge puts me under oath, puts the jury under oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. I said to the judge, I said, sir, do you want the whole truth? He goes, huh? I said, do you want the whole truth? He goes, the whole truth? I said, yes, sir. Do you want the whole truth? He goes, oh, by all means. Well, anyway, I started laying out for the jury exactly what had happened, word for word, item for item, as exactly what the doctor had done and what I was able to do. I had the jury, particularly with what they had heard earlier on. They were paying attention, but every other word from the opposition of the insurance company was, I object, I object, I object. The judge shut the court down twice, required us to settle out of court. He would not allow the jury to hear the type of things that these insurance companies are getting away with. We live in a lobocracy. If you've got the money for the lobbyists, the laws will be created to your benefit. And this is the way these insurance companies have operated. So anyway, we had to settle out of court. We ended up getting the exact same amount that had they paid their bills years earlier. There was no punitive damages. They had nothing to lose. And the lady came up to me, she said, we pay our big bills. As if to say, for what it cost you to come after us, and what your attorneys get, and what you had to pay for a functional capacity exam, an hours-long exam to disprove what our fraudulent doctor said. This henchman. The guy was known from Tidewater to Charlottesville as a fraud. He'd been kicked out of all the hospitals in Richmond. He was known to the local doctors as the insurance companies and attorneys orthopedic surgeon. Anyway, so this is the kind of stuff they get by with. Anyway, the following weekend, I'm driving up to Northern Virginia. We do farmers markets. And so I would be driving up in the middle of the night. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was going through a little town called Culpeper. And here's the question that comes into me. Now, when that judge put the entire jury under oath at one time, did he even ask the jury if they believed in me? It was like, well, no. The next question is, well, don't there have to be two parties to an agreement for it to be binding? Yeah. Well, if they don't believe I'm on the other end of the agreement because I don't exist, there's no parties to the contract. Can I legally hold them accountable to a contract or an agreement with me? It was like, well, now that makes sense. And then the next question was, well, what if the judge says, do you believe in God? And it's like, oh, you got some more coming on this one. Just because somebody says, yes, I believe in God, is that God me? Is it my son? Is it Allah? Is it Zeus? Is it Moloch? Is it Thor? Allah never had a son. Allah is not me. So just because somebody said, do you believe in God, does that mean it's legally binding on me? If I'm not standing there to be a party to the contract, it would not be binding unless I was represented by an agent of my authority. Now, this is God talking to me. Would I tolerate an officer of my court representing Allah or any of these other guys at the same time? So if it's not even being specified who the God is that you're being put in contract to, in covenant or contract with, it's null and void. I cannot hold anybody. It's null and void. It has nothing to do with making an agreement with me. And then he said, yeah, think about this. A guy who was put under oath on an altar in Masonry is put under oath on the Bible is the exact same guy who's going to put a Muslim under oath on the Quran. So the mere fact that through demonstration these guys are representing the Quran, Allah, and representing me shows through activity that they could not possibly be an authority of mine. So therefore you're not lawfully and legally being put under oath to me. So these oaths are null and void. It's like, wow. And then years later, a friend offered to put me up to join the Masons. And I prayed about it. And God said, you know, it's a social club. You're not taking any oaths to me. You already know that these guys cannot legally and lawfully put you under oath to me. Not in my eyes. So it's just an initiation. As far as I'm concerned, it's nothing more than saying, twinkle, twinkle, little star, you're getting in. However, since you realize that these frauds go on when these, what they call endowments, or, well, the Mormons call them endowments, or what they call, what's the word? Sorry about that. Obligations in Masonry. You cannot be involved in non-disclosure. You have got to explain to these people before you take the covenants or the obligations that these obligations are not binding on me because you are legally and lawfully not putting me under oath to God. And the mere fact that it's incorporating an agreement to put me in contract with God is fraudulent, which vitiates the entire thing. So therefore, I'm not bound to silence. I'm not having a gag order put on me that I can't talk about. So I went through and I learned. It was first thing was interesting. It's like, wait a minute. I agreed. Or the agreement, the endowment was before you tell any secrets, you'd have your throat cut from ear to ear, tongue torn out by its roots, cast into the rough sands of the sea, cable tow length from shore, where the tide ebbs and flows twice in 24 hours. That was the first penalty. Other penalties are the same. For those of you who have been through the Mormon endowments before they did away with the death penalties, it's the same thing. Here, technically having your heart cut out, being disemboweled. This is the way you kosherly clean an animal. You cut its throat first to bleed it, then you cut its heart out, then you disembowel it. You do it on the north side of the altar because it's in the shade. You don't want any blemishes on the animal because you want to make sure that animal isn't sick. It's like a USDA approval. You want to make sure the animal has not been tortured because that puts adrenaline into the meat, which affects the flavor of the meat. The purpose of the smoke is to keep the bugs off the meat and preserve the meat. And why do you always kill males? How many males do you need for a herd? When it comes time to cull a herd, this is what you do. And then the priest is the one who gets to keep the meat, making nothing. No restitution between me and you. It's been a fraud that has gone on since the beginning of time. And the priest would just add more and more and more laws because that got them their, quote, sacrifices. So anyway, I don't know why I had to get into that. I just had to throw that out there. So people think killing an animal is a sacrifice. And for it to be kosher was nothing more than what we have today, something being USDA approved. Okay, the animal was killed fresh. It was a safe animal to eat. It was properly cleaned. And the purpose of not eating an animal sacrificed to another god is we don't know if it's properly cleaned. We don't know if it's safe. So anyway, we'll just leave it at that. Oh, another point. I don't want to leave it at that. There's a story. I'll make up a story about it. There's a little kid. A little kid has an opportunity to join a club. And before he can join the club, he has to take an oath. Cross my heart, hope to die. Stick a needle in my eye if I tell any of the secrets. And he gets in the clubhouse and he finds out that the other kids, who are his best buddies, are playing with rattlesnakes, copperheads. They've got some scorpion in there. They're playing with deadly animals. They could be killed in a heartbeat. So little Tommy goes home to his parents. He said, Mommy, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I'm not supposed to tell any secrets, but these guys are going to get killed. So he tells his parents and he says, what's happening? Now, if you're a parent and you knew that your friends' kids were in danger, would you not have the responsibility to warn them? So you go to the parents and you say, look, I understand your children are involved in some very dangerous activities. And the next thing you know, you find out your little boy Tommy has been dead, has been killed. Somebody stuck a needle in his eye and they cut his heart out. Well, he took an oath. Did he deserve to die? Can we legalize a crime in the eyes of God through license? In other words, can you and I shake hands and say, okay, we agree that for $25 you're going to go down and kill Charlie down the street? That's not binding. We cannot legalize murder. Now, you agree that before you tell any of the secrets, any of the covenants, you'll suffer your life to be taken, or I'll have my throat cut from ear to ear, etc., etc. What technically that is a conspiracy to shed innocent blood, which vitiates the whole thing. In any organization that is using illegal covenants or a contract that would not stand up in the eyes of God could not possibly hold the priesthood or any authority of his throne. Think about that.